I have always loved to paint and draw and make things, but I was told fairly often when I was younger, especially by people in my classes and in school, that I wasn't very good at it, and for a long time I listened to them. I shouldn't have.
Fill me out with your smile.
I never wanted to create realistic art that looked exactly like real life. Instead, I wanted to create pieces that meant something to me. When I was maybe 12 or 13 or so, this meant a lot of the girls in my art classes would call me like weird, and they'd say they didn't get my art and that it was stupid or messy or just not good. A lot of people would kind of mock me and stuff. The teachers were surprisingly encouraging and they were really nice about it, but when you're that age, one teacher versus like 10 girls, you know who you're going to listen to. So I got disheartened. I stopped painting, I stopped drawing, I stopped making so many things, and I picked up a camera instead, and I fell in love with that. And I didn't share it with any of them because it was just my thing and it was just something for me to work on. And that really helped. I do love photography, and that's always going to be my first true love and my passion, creatively speaking anyway. But there's always been something about painting that really speaks to me, and just about making things in general. So I also scrapbook, I quite like modelling and making things out of clay. I haven't done that so much recently, but I used to like it a lot when I was younger. But other than photography, painting has kind of been my go-to thing for the last couple of years. There's something about it that just speaks to me. You know, you start with this blank canvas, and there's so much opportunity and potential, and you never really know what's going to happen. You can have ideas, but you never really know until it's done. And then you get messy and you put all your feelings out there and you create something and you see it growing before your eyes, and there's something magical about that. I got back into painting probably when I was around 20-ish, and I was at a pretty low point in terms of depression. I was struggling to get out of bed a lot of the time. I barely left my room. I was falling behind with my uni work. I was barely managing to eat. I was not sleeping and then oversleeping for days at a time. I was just an absolute mess. And my one big escape at that time, the time when I felt most at ease, was when I was painting. A friend had recommended I look into this cheap little chain bookstore, which if you live in the UK, you'll probably know it. It's The Works. He said they had some really good cheap photography books there. So after about a week or so, I finally got up the courage to leave my house, and I got myself ready for this expedition, this trek, a whole 5 minutes down the street. It was that close, and it was still this big traumatic event for me. But I got there without crying, without a panic attack, with only mild nausea. I got there. And I looked at those photography books, and I felt pretty great. I ended up picking a book, and while I was in the queue to buy it, I saw this cheap little set of acrylic paints for beginners. It was like a $5 or something. It wasn't much money, it was just this stupid little thing, and completely on a whim, I bought it. I took them home, and I found out my old, mostly unused sketchbook, and I put a Disney film on the computer, like a DVD, and I sat in this comfy chair at the end of my bed, and I just started to paint. My first 2 paintings were these 2, and they were just of some flowers. They were nothing special. Not even very good. There's no composition, there's no idea to them. But it felt so good in that moment to just let everything out that I'd been feeling onto paper, and just create something out of this absolute mess and pain in my head. All that anxiety that I'd built up in my head about leaving the house left me in these rough, jerky little brush strokes that you can still see on the painting. And all that relief I felt when I came home, happy, I could see my colour palette of the baby pinks and the blues and the reds and so on. I stuck those 2 paintings up on my bedroom wall, and from then on they always reminded me that I can do this. I can get through the difficult moments, and I've been painting and using painting to help me get through ever since. Often when I'm feeling really low, and when my anxiety's bad or my depression's bad or whatever, and when I want to hurt myself, now I turn to painting, and it really, really helps me get through. It gives me something to focus on and channel all that energy into. Mostly though, it keeps my hands busy, and that's really, really important. During those moments, I've definitely created some of my darkest and messiest and weirdest pieces. And sometimes I wonder if maybe I shouldn't keep them because of the bad memories associated with them. But then other times when I'm in a better mindset, I realise that I do need to keep them because they're a part of me and they're a part of who I am. And they're a reminder that while I do have the bad times, I always get through them, and I always have in the past. The dark stuff is as much a part of me and an expression of me as the pretty pictures. So while I might not put these ones up on my wall, they're still a part of my journey, and I don't necessarily want to hide that. I don't want it to be who I am all the time, but I can't pretend it's not a part of who I am some of the time. I'm not the only person who gets help from art though. Art therapy is a legitimate kind of therapy, and it's one that helps many, many people of all different ages and abilities and backgrounds. In the handbook of art therapy, there's a bit that says, art therapy is based on the idea that the creative process of art making is healing and life-enhancing, and is a non-verbal communication of thoughts and feelings. It's used to encourage personal growth, increase self-understanding, and assist in emotional reparation. It goes on to say that art therapy supports the belief that all individuals have the capacity to express themselves creatively, and that the product is less important than the therapeutic process involved. So even if you think, well, that's not for me, I can't draw, that's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily about drawing something. It's definitely not about ability. It's more about creating something. It's about what you create. It's about the journey you take to create it. It's about the feelings it makes you confront and how much of yourself you pour into that creative process. No one's going to care if your painting of a flower looks exactly like the flower in the vase over there. What matters is, why did you choose to paint that flower? Why those colours? How fast or slow were you painting? Is it messy or neat? What does it say about your state of mind at the time? Does looking at this flower bring up any memories for you? Does it make you feel strong and empowered? You created this thing in front of you. You did this. No one else. How incredible is that? You have this power to see a blank page and create something on it. It's pretty special. When all the Essence of Thought drama went down, and you guys know I was in a really bad place, at the time I'd been working on some sketches for a self-portrait I was doing. This is the first draft I'd done, and it's okay, I guess. It kind of looks like me, I suppose, but it's nothing really special. And I'd started sketching a new outline on a piece of canvas, like just before all the drama went down. And on one of my particularly bad days afterwards, I saw this sketch on this canvas, and I saw this draft painting, and I just felt so angry. That's all there is to it. I felt angry. I looked at this painting and I was like, this isn't me. I'm not pretty and perfect and put together. I'm a broken person who hurts herself and is a mess. And I just grabbed my paints and I painted the person that I felt I was in that moment. And this is what I ended up with. My whole palette was a lot darker, my brush strokes were wilder and messier. I'm pretty sure there were some tears on the canvas in times. I dripped my paint instead of applying it carefully. I just kind of threw myself at this canvas. Dan saw this painting once when he came round to pick up Kyrouac, and he mocked me for it. And it really, really hurt, because I'd taken this vulnerable pain inside me and created something out of it that I felt expressed who I was at that time, and he mocked me for it, and that really, really hurt. So screw him for that. He was in the wrong there, not me. So now I keep both of these paintings because they're both me. One is the me that I want to be, who looks strong and independent and put together, and the other is the part of me that's always going to be there, that I need to stop hiding and just accept and let heal. And that's not to say I necessarily embrace my damage. That's not to say I want to keep feeling like crap. It's just saying, I know I have these weaknesses and vulnerabilities. I know I have these problems, and they're a part of me to work on. I don't necessarily need to hide them anymore. I just need to know that they're there and be aware of it and try and grow around it, you know? Yeah, so there we go. That's how I kind of use art and painting to help me with my depression, my anxiety, my issues around self-harm. It might not be the thing that works for you. You might turn to something else. You might turn to music or dance or drama or something completely different. You might like scrapbooking or collaging or anything. But this is what I use, and this is what really helps me. And I really hope if there are other people out there, and I know there are plenty of you who struggle with the same or similar issues that I have, I hope you can find something that helps you kind of get through it. And if you can create something along the way, even better. If you don't want to create something, if you just want a distraction in, I know, sport or exercise or whatever, you can do that as well. But just remember that there are things you can do to cope. There are ways you can get through. And the dark moments aren't going to stay dark forever. You will get through it. Things will get easier. And it's not always going to be really tough. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate you guys so much. And hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.
Fill me out with your smile. Now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out with a flame. I will let you